Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm, of course, JBTM with Mr. Faipulea. No, it's been a while since we've been here, of course, due to the holidays and with the bad weather of us losing power. We really ain't been able to do a podcast, but we're here now. That's the main thing.
That's what happened.
So, Jason, what are we talking about tonight?
So yeah, today we're going to be
What are
talking
we talking
about.
about tonight, sir?
So tonight we're going to be talking about something that kind of seems like an obvious answer. It's as a Marvel Legends collector, do you really need to collect everything? And I think most of us can probably say that's an easy nope. Okay, let's move on. But I think that as we dig into this question of, collecting Marvel Legends and what it just means to collect and different styles of collecting and what collecting means to it, there's a lot more to dig into this. So, what we're going to be doing tonight is we're going to be addressing this question of whether or not we need to collect everything in Marvel Legends, but we're going to be talking about a lot of different aspects of it. We're going to be talking about just whether, you know, it's necessary to be a completist or not. We're going to be talking about our own collecting habits, what our collection says about us. We're going to be talking about the way that Marvel Legends are being made and also marketed now, and how their current marketing strategy kind of works for or against us, depending on what our collecting style is. And just again, just kind of our own personal history of just collecting things, and most importantly, what our collection says about us. Because really, whether you are collecting action figures, whether you're collecting vinyl of uh, albums you really love, whether it's a book collection, your collection is a reflection of you. It's a reflection of what's important to you and where you're at this stage of your life. It is a statement about you and what matters to you. And so, obviously, as collectors, we don't necessarily want or need to have the biggest collection in the world, but we should be aiming for a collection that brings us joy and says something about us and what matters to us.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, with that in mind, I am curious, have you ever collected anything to completion? Has there ever been a line, not just like a certain wave, obviously, but like an actual toy line in your life that you ever like, I have to have it all?
Not really. As a kid, you really don't like care about completing stuff and as much, but as you get older, like to adulthood, you're kind of like, oh, you want to complete this, want to complete that.
Hmm.
I honestly never really been a completist when it comes to stuff.
Hmm.
I just always cherry picked figures. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of gotten to the point where it's, oh, I want to complete this team or complete this line or something like that.
Hmm.
So, like currently right now, I'm trying to do. I'll just mention it. Jada Toy Street Fighter. Of course, that's a line I am trying to do. But in terms of Marvel Legends, I am trying to get a couple of like set pieces together. So like the classic Avengers, get those together, or get a Daredevil set, something like that, but not like be a full completist.
Hmm. So then, what you're looking to do is not so much complete a Marvel Legends collection, but complete a collection of specific Marvel Legends characters.
Yes.
Okay. So it's interesting you say that, because you were saying, well, as a kid, I didn't care. I cherry picked. And now as a collector or as an adult, I think more about it. I think I'm actually the opposite, because I think that as a kid, growing up in the 80s and being hyper susceptible, you know, to advertising and cartoons and everything, I kind of wanted everything of everything. So, like, as a kid, when I went through like my He-Man phase, I wanted everybody. And when I was in my real Ghostbusters phase, that one was a bad one for me. I was obsessed with real Ghostbusters, and like every time a new wave of the four of them came out, whether it was like Fright features or whatever, I wanted those. I wanted all the different ghosts. And for me, the one that carried over, that was the only one that actually stayed for me as a completionist, was Aliens, the 1993 Kenner line. And that was for me, that I loved that line so much. I love those figures so much. It's the really the only toy line I think as an adult that I still strive to. I want all of them. And the problem with that is if you are familiar with the Kenner line, the last wave of figures, which were all Space Marines, as a lot of figures were back then, they were only released in the UK, very small numbers. So like those last three figures were super hard to get, very expensive on the aftermarket. Like one of them, Vasquez, regularly, no joke, you'll see like for like $400 on the aftermarket, new and packaged. So these are like some holy grails for me. But and this kind of brings us back to what I wanted to. One of the first points I wanted to talk about was even with Aliens, there are some figures I don't care about. So in the late 90s, when the line was running out of steam, Kenner started just kind of dumping lots of repaints and repackages onto stores like KB or Big Lots or whatever else have you. And so you had a lot of the figures were just like palette swaps of the original versions that were just like, hey, this is the same thing, but not as cool of a color. Or some of those hard to get UK figures they had in a different color scheme packed with an alien. And I have those, you know, but it's like, even as a completist, some of those like ancillary, like, oh, well, the Big Lots repaints, I don't care about that. So I feel like even within that concept of being a completionist, there is still that certain level of picking and choosing and saying, yeah, I want all of this, but I need all of it, And I guess
Yeah.
it also speaks to the question of one of the first questions we need to ask ourselves is, as a collector, what is the main motivating collecting?
Mm.
Is it for your personal pleasure? Is it for just the thrill of the hunt? Is it for investment? So I would say that, when you're looking at completionists, there are a lot of collectors who do want complete collections of things for investment, opportunities down the road. For you, Jace, what would you say has been your motivating factor for most of your collecting history?
It's just like I said originally, it's just been what has always grown on me as a child, what I really liked as a kid with superheroes and of course comic books and all that stuff I grew up with. And when it comes to collecting, um, when I started it at first,
Is this a really big pause? Oh, okay, there you are.
yeah,
I thought you were just taking a really long pause.
no, no, no. Um,
Okay, no.
I got into collecting because I struggled with having friends like growing
Mhm.
up. So collecting kind of opened the door for me to meet people like you, Jason, and others to sort of be like connected with other people because I always felt for a long time I was by myself, like
Mhm.
always a loner.
Yeah,
So I started getting to collecting. It kind of opened the door to that. But I do like collecting because I get a chance to collect mini action figures of the characters that I love that I grew up with, like Spider Man, Captain America,
yeah,
Wolverine, Superman,
yeah.
Batman, all of those. So it's always fun in that way for me.
Hmm. I think that that is in a lot of ways my own background. I will say I never really had the joy of making friends over the connection of action figures until I was an adult collector. As a kid, I don't
Mm,
think, I mean, there were like friends I had, and we would play with toys. I think for me as a kid, you had, on the one hand, I loved the idea, as a little kid, I loved, just imaginative play with action figures, acting out stories. And, one thing that's kind of funny, and I was talking to somebody about this. I have all of these VHSs from when I was like 10 or 11 years old, going back to like 1992, 1993, 1994. where I was acting out stories with action figures, like literally in front of a camcorder, just like I'm doing now. I'd lug out the family camcorder, and I'm behind the camera, with whatever figures, and I'm like pretending they're different characters, and I have like play sets acting as the backdrops. And it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because like, oh man, I'm now an adult doing kind of the exact same thing. But for me, my connection with collecting as a kid anyway was one, yes, it was that celebration of characters that I really loved. But for another thing, it was also partly discovering new characters and new loves. And then also just finding ways of being able to act out and kind of create some sort of a physical framework for stories that I would have loved to have, been able to tell myself. And so I think for me now as a collector, there are definitely times where I have picked up something thinking, okay, you know what, I might not necessarily want this, but somebody's going to want it. Maybe I can make a couple of extra bucks on it and have that kind of resell attitude. But for me, it really is just mostly the joy of the characters. It's really that discovery. And then also because I just love engineering and all the technical aspects of it. Like, the closest thing that I think I may become a completist on right now is the DC X Sonic the Hedgehog line, because there's so few of them. They're just trickling out here and there. It's easy just to get them. I have so enjoyed, messing with these DC figures to see, hey, here's a company that's never done DC figures at this scale before. What are they doing with it versus what other companies have done with it? I don't have a great, history with Sonic the Hedgehog. I grew up as a Nintendo kid. So I'm learning about all these characters, from the Sonic universe through the lens of something else that I am familiar with and I love. So for me, I've really been enjoying it. And I may end up, being more or less completist, at least with, the 2-pack scale stuff. So I think those are my reasons for why I collect. I will say when I started the channel, a big part of it was wanting to make friends with other collectors and just meet more like-minded people, because I realized I've got this hobby that's a huge part of my life and nobody to share it with. So,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
but I think that's also part of the reason why it's so easy for me to say, well, no, you don't need to collect everything, whether it's Marvel Legends or anything else. Collect what makes you happy. So
Mhm.
to that, the next thing I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit is, well, was there more that you wanted to add, as far as what motivates you to collect?
Oh no, I've really said everything I need to say about that point. So we can go on the
Now,
next one if you want to.
okay, well, the next thing I really want to talk about, which I think you can maybe speak to even better than I can, is for me anyway, and I don't know how many of you watching relate to this, but for me, a lot of it was a matter of not just gathering a collection, but evolving a collection. Because I was collecting back in the 90s, I started to have discretional income during the 90s heyday of Toy Biz, Spider-Man and X-Men, where you could go to KB and, 3 for 15 and just like get everything you possibly could. And then next year it would get even better. And there'd be, like in 1995, this was the best Spider-Man ever. But then next year, hey, now they've got, ankle hinge and they're, even whatever. And then the next year it's like, oh man, 97, we're getting in the etched in webs and all that. So like I was in that time period where every year the engineering was getting better, the technology was getting better, the products were getting better. And so for a lot of my early collecting years, it wasn't even a matter of just wanting to buy as much as I can. It was taking characters I really liked. And then when the new one came out, like, okay, well, I want to update, the display. I want to update the collection. I want to evolve it. And I just want to have the best versions of these characters that I like. And when it comes to Marvel Legends, because I mean, obviously we're talking about Marvel Legends. That's the main topic for today. So bringing it back to Marvel Legends, they're constantly, making new and updated versions of previous figures. Back in 2012, or no, not 2012, like 2006, when they did the Return of Marvel Legends with Thor, that version of Thor. Now here we are, all these years later, we're getting the Maximum Thor of that design. So if you've had that on your shelf all this time, I mean, you could put them side by side, or you can swap it out and sell off that old one and evolve it. And so the reason why I feel like you can speak to this is because, and I feel like you can definitely speak more to this than I have, or I can, is I know that you particularly have kind of gone through your collection and had to kind of say, okay, what am I keeping? What is really worth displaying? And then like making some of the hard choices to say, I don't have room for everything. So what actually is important? And so I
Mhm.
feel like you can probably talk more to that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm currently doing that right now in the process. I've
Mhm.
got a couple of stuff that I am taking to sell and part ways with. I did that quite a few times last year. And like you said, it's just with the space I have, it's so limited to what I can collect and what I can keep.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
try to, the factors I look at when it comes to what you want to keep in your collection, what you want to sell, is is it something that I really grew up with? Is it something that I'm going to want to keep for years to come?
Yeah.
Or as you said, is it something that I'm looking to hold on to and then eventually sell for, more than what it costs, for the income kind of stuff?
Hmm.
And so it's one of those options. For me personally, the stuff I sell, I hate to see it go, but at the same time, I'm happy to see it go because it gives another collector a chance to get that who maybe not
Hmm.
won't be able to get it. And then, of
Hmm.
course, I keep the stuff that I do want to keep. Like I've got my Marvel Legends back here. I've got a couple of things hanging on my wall, and
Hmm.
it's just one of those things where it is tough to say to let go of a collection, but at the same time, you feel good about it because like you're making room for bigger and better things. Which we know companies, man, toys are evolving. They're adding more articulation. I mean, just look at the Maximum Spider-Man that came out. I mean, that
Right.
figure's got a lot. It's got the import. It's got the articulation of an import figure,
Hmm.
but it is missing that quality. With
Hmm.
that particular figure, I said if they just added web lines, sculpted in web
Hmm.
lines like they do for the MCU figures, and painted those in, the figure would have been top notch.
Hmm.
But they kind of wanted to find a route to save some money on, which is totally understandable. I mean, companies, they have to
Right.
save money to spend money.
Right.
So it's completely understandable at that point.
And actually, this was not in my notes, but I think that as long as we're here, Maximum Spider-Man is a great um, aside to take right now.
Mhm,
I know that I like Maximum Spider-Man a lot, but even like in my review of it, I was not as over the moon about it as some people are. Um, I really questioned some of the accessory choices. You know, um, I feel like, you talk about the import quality. For me, when I think about import quality, like especially like a Mafex, for example, a big part of that is not just how much articulation is there, but how smooth is that articulation? How durable is that plastic? And
mhm,
so, like again, as an average collector saying, hey, here's a deluxe Spider-Man with some extra accessories for a little bit of a higher price point, but you got everything you need in one box. I'm fine with it. Um, we can talk about how fine I am with it, being $50 or whatever it's going to be moving forward. But I think that one of the comments that I saw a lot, and this is why I think it makes it very challenging to collect all of Marvel Legends or really all of a few different toy lines, is one of the comments that I saw a lot were individuals saying, I'm just going to wait for them to reuse this body for a cheaper wave and get it then. Or I'm going to wait for them to redo this in, brighter blues and reds or whatever else have you. part of why I think it's really challenging for even people that might want to support Hasbro and buy everything is knowing, hey, if I don't really like everything about a figure that they've put out, if I wait 5 or 6 months, they're going to reissue that same body in a different way anyway. Case in
Mm-hmm.
point, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. They gave us what, two previous versions of the No Way Home Spider-Man. We got the 3-pack version and we got the blister card version, both of them in the really super dark burgundy and navy blue. And now we have the bright red and blue that I would have loved to start with.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, I'm the sucker that bought both the other versions also. But if you didn't want to, you could have easily said, I'm going to wait and see if they reissue this. And that's going to happen with Maximum Spider-Man. I know that we just saw the Secret Wars Daredevil. I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of new tooling in there, but I do think there's a lot of Maximum Spider-Man in there as well. Don't quote me on that. I'm speculating. I could be completely wrong. So again, Marvel Legends, or really, I feel like most figures from most of these big companies are kind of like the weather here in Florida. If you don't like this right now, wait 5 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
that is
Yeah.
kind of a deterrent to being a completionist. Like, why do I need to complete everything if I know they're just going to reissue it, in a few months anyway in some other form?
Well, see, that's what I had with Secret Wars when they revealed when the leaks came out. They were doing Spider Man. I'm like, so what body are they going to use? Now they could use the maximum body and get
Mm-hmm.
all the revenue in the world with that,
Mm-hmm.
or to keep it in touch or to keep it coherent, they use the Amazing Fantasy 15 body like they did for the first wave. But
And
they
I don't
went
think
back.
they use it.
No, they used the Renew Your Vows Spider Man
Okay, that's what
for
I
this
thought.
wave two. And it was, and when they revealed it, I was scratching my head. I'm like, this should, why would you change it? Like now the black costume and this Spider Man ain't going to go together because there are two different bodies that don't make sense.
Well, again, and I think, granted, I still haven't done my big verses, with Maximum
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man and Renew Your Vows and a few other surprises. But
Mm-hmm.
so I don't really want to make a final statement until I really just dig into that verses and really just kind of, mess with everything. In
Mm-hmm.
general, though, it is my opinion that if you were only ever going to have one standard Marvel Legends Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man to build the rest of your collection around, it's probably Renew Your Vows. It's a good general Spider-Man design. You've got the Peter Parker head, you have all the hands. Ben Riley is built off of that body. You've got a black suit Spider-Man built off of that body. You've got Scarlet Spider built off that body. We have Spider-Man 2099 now built off that body. So if you wanted consistency, I think that's probably your best one.
Yeah.
Um, right now, I've been using Renew Your Vows just because I like those not Renew Your Vows. I've been using Maximum. I
Mm-hmm.
like those proportions. Like even like with like the Ben Riley Spider-Man on the old Pizza Spidey body, it might be inferior in some ways, but hey, the blues match and the body frames are similar enough where I'm like, okay, I could see Maximum Spider-Man being kind of like a hyper articulated, version of this general body frame. It works for me. But
Yeah.
you know, but I do feel that if they were to release an Amazing Friends body Spider-Man in the traditional colors with, maybe the Ramita style mask, give him all the hands, give him a Peter Parker head, that might be the best. I
Mm-hmm.
do love the proportions on that Amazing Friends body. And like you said, I wasn't entirely sure which one they used for the Secret Wars Wave 2, but that again, here we are back at Spider-Man and talking about, do we need to collect everything? Well, do you really need a figure of Spider-Man that's just Spider-Man with like one arm and half of his chest covered in black goo? I think most people would say they don't need that, but it's a fun thing to have for those who want it,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And that kind of brings me to what I see as, where is Marvel Legends now? So when for time in memoriam, we've been seeing since Hasbro really came back hammer and tong, like 2014, they really started to really care. That's with like the Winter Soldier wave, and you've got like that box style and the build a waves, and everything was a build a wave for years until they started doing some of their specialty like once a year lines, like the Avengers movie stuff. You had the build a figure waves as a way of incentivizing collecting everything. Oh, we have someone chiming in. What do we got?
To answer the question, no, I buy what I like and forget the rest. Yeah, that's a lot of collectors, especially with
Yeah,
the price hikes and everything going up. You have to be picky and choosy with what you pick nowadays. It's not like it was
yeah.
5 or 6 years ago where we could pick what we wanted. Because now we have to really decide what do we want to collect. That's why a lot of collectors are quit collecting or they're selling majority of their
Mhm,
collection because they want to keep collecting, but you have to cherry pick now.
mhm. But I would also say that in some ways, I feel like we have to cherry pick less, though, because
Mhm.
now that not everything is hidden behind a build a figure wave, now that we have, even though I think it's a stupid concept, you've got the mini comic book waves, and you
Mhm.
have, Secret Wars, which I enjoy, or some of the retro card Spider Man or X Men figures. You don't have to buy everything because there isn't some bigger build a figure you're working toward where it's like, well, I might not want Karnak, but I gotta have him if I want to build whatever. I might not need Egghead, but if I want to build Cassie Lang, I've got to, I've got to get him. So I feel like you have more freedom now to pick and choose and to say, well, if everything isn't so important because not everything is a build a wave or whatever else have you, I feel like you have more permission to say, hey, I can sit this one out. Like I'm sitting out most of the Secret Wars wave, or at least I am at first. You know, I'm getting Daredevil. Um, I'm getting Falcon because I've been wanting that classic Falcon look. I know that we had the
Mhm.
retro card version, but like that was like a half classic Falcon. That wasn't quite it. This is it. And
Mhm.
I've pre-ordered Spider-Man, because I'm a nut for Spider-Man, and I have a huge amount of nostalgia for an old 5-inch Toy Biz figure of that, where they did a two-pack that was exclusive to FAO Schwartz back in 1997, where it was one figure was Spider-Man as like the cosmic Spider-Man, and then the
Mhm.
other one was like a red and black Spider-Man, but being taken over by the symbiote. And I have like a wonderful fond memory of going to FAO Schwartz on my birthday that year and finding it and being so happy. So for me, I see that and it brings me back to that warm fuzzy, like, hey, this is just like, this is how I saw this figure, the way this figure is now. This is how, I saw it as a kid, with just, I don't know, 9 points of articulation or eight or whatever it was. So like I like it for me, but you can pass on it. You don't need it.
Mhm.
And I might get Magic, but I'm also pretty happy with my Walgreens version. So
Mhm.
I feel like having all of these different ways that they're marketing Marvel Legends has kind of given us the ability to not feel like we have to get everything.
Mhm.
But but before I say my butt, because there's a big, you smell that? It's a big butt coming. Um,
Mhm.
before I say anything else, what do you think of that? What are your thoughts there?
I agree. I mean, I didn't hate the Build-A-Figure, but now it seems like they're just including Build-A-Figures in single release boxes to where we don't have to
Mm-hmm.
buy an entire wave of
Right.
figures. Because there
Yeah.
is always because you're right, there is always those 1 or 2 figures in a wave that we don't really want.
Mm-hmm.
We
You're getting a little bit choppy. I don't know if you can hear that.
okay,
We
can you
seem to
hear me
be
now?
okay. There you are.
Can you Okay. My laptop's acting up on me, so
Uh,
apologize, everyone.
I just do mine through my
But
phone to make I'm not technically savvy enough to be doing no laptops.
I know. This thing, it hates me half the time. But anyway, um, but yeah, I did get the Daredevil for
Hmm.
sure. The Falcon, I was so excited for when they revealed it because I'm like, finally, classic Falcon, the one I've been wanting to get. Because I
Hmm.
like the retro card Falcon, but I skipped down those because I'm like, they can do better. They can. And
Right.
they have done really good with this classic Falcon.
Hmm.
And the Spider-Man, I was tempted to order, but I'm like, I'm probably gonna wait until I see it in person and then probably get it. But if I do get it, it's just gonna want to stay in the box anyway because it makes
Hmm.
a really good display piece in the box,
Yeah.
like on its own. So
Yeah.
that's just me though.
Yeah. And I may get Absorbing Man once he goes on clearance somewhere,
Mm,
you know. But there's not enough in that box for me to, care. And I like Absorbing Man, but
mm,
again, with no any kind of effects pieces to like make him feel like he's absorbing anything. It's just kind of shirtless, bald dude with a wrecking ball, and that's fine. That's Absorbing Man when he's not doing anything. But so the big but then is on the one hand, you're given this new business model where not everything is a build a figure. So you don't have to buy every figure in the line or in the wave. But the downside of that, the benefit of the build a figure waves was because they built in the urgency of having to collect them all. That gave Hasbro a really wonderful opportunity to include C list and D list characters who, on their
mm,
own, would probably not be able to support a single issue release. I've mentioned Egghead, you know, in the I think it was the Cassia Lang wave. You know, I don't see them making Egghead now as a single carded, like, oh, here for $28 you can buy, Egghead, and he comes with two hands. Doesn't that sound great? Nope, no, it doesn't. So my fear is that by creating this new business model where we don't have to collect everything, they're going to stop making, as many obscure characters or deep cut characters, and that we're just going to kind of see just more. And even like, I know a lot of collectors feel frustrated by how many variations we get of popular characters, but that's just how toys work. You're always going
mm.
to have some representation of your evergreen characters on the shelf, but you want those more obscure ones. Like, I'm surprised that like that, and I know that the automatic argument to what I just said is the current Spider-Man retro wave,
Mhm.
because with the owl and the disc, what? Yeah,
Mm.
the owl. We got the owl. We got the disco guy. So there are some deep cuts on that one. You know, so I mean, I'm concerned about character selection. Oh, well, we seem to be experiencing technical details, folks. Well, it's just you and me, and Jace isn't around. Let's talk for a second. Let's say, what about you? What? Oh, no, he's back. Dummy up, dummy up. He's back.
No, if anybody in the comments has a point they'd like to mention, they are more than welcome to, for sure. I know we got
Yeah,
I'm
and
still figuring this out, saying hello, good to see you. So, got a few people.
yeah.
It's funny, on my end, I'm having technical difficulties, but on my end, I'm looking at you, your camera keeps freezing, Jason.
Right. Oh, really? That's interesting because I'm not seeing that on my end. So,
I
sound off
know.
in the comments and let us know. Um,
Yeah, if Jason's camera is freezing, let us know and we'll try to fix that because we do got time. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it with Marvel Legends, and of course, there are. I've heard a lot of people like to badmouth influencers who pretty much get every Marvel Legend and say I'm a
mhm.
collector, and they're kind of collectors that I feel like there's three categories in my head when it comes to collector. There is the influencer, there
Mm-hmm.
is the businessman, and then there is the casual collector.
Mm-hmm.
And the influencer is one who tries to get every Marvel Legend he can just so he
Mm-hmm.
could post about it. I've seen a lot of them do this where they'll buy they'll buy the Marvel Legend and then they'll end up selling it later because they
Mm-hmm.
don't really care much for it. And of course, the influencers, a lot of them, use YouTube as a business. They make it their full-time job, which is
Mm-hmm.
difficult, I'm sure. I know you probably have experience like that, Jason, from doing YouTube for so long. I'm sure
Yeah.
you can give a little details about how all that goes, hopefully in the future. But nothing bad about the influencer because without influencers telling us the information we need in these figures, we would probably not be able to fully decide, oh, do we want to get this figure? Do we want to get this one?
Right.
The business that of course fits both influence and business. The
Mm-hmm.
casual collector will just be one going through this toy store, see what he finds on the shelf, and then picks it up because it's the
Right.
character he likes, which we've talked about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's different things to when it comes to collecting Marvel Legends. Are you a casual? Are you a
Mm-hmm.
fan? Or are you a influencer? So there's
Mm-hmm.
three categories to it, in my opinion. At least in my opinion, there is.
Yeah, and I feel like, yeah, I guess if you get, if you really start getting lost in the weeds, there might be other subcategories.
Mm-hmm.
It's challenging. It is challenging for creators, like you and I, because, you know, obviously there are other creators out there who are, like you said, they're getting free stuff. And there's this expression,
Mm-hmm.
um, the two people that never know if anyone really loves them is a rich man and a beautiful woman. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so when it comes to certain when it comes to a creator who's trying to be an influencer and they're trying to have the kind of relationship where they're getting the free stuff, and so they're always going to be super positive and never really kind of push back at everything. I understand questioning the veracity of that person and like, well, do you actually like this? Is this really worth getting? Or are you just saying that because, you're getting the free stuff? And as soon as you get anything free, there's going to be those individuals that are going to kind of question that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
honestly not unfair. I think that for at least for myself, not criticizing any individual creators because you and I know how much work goes into creating content. We
Mm-hmm.
know what it's like to be up until 4 o'clock in the morning trying to get something done because we have to get it
Yeah.
done. And then the laptop doesn't work. And then, this isn't, I don't know how your process works. I know that for me, if you see a minute of finished video, it usually equals about an hour of behind the scenes for me.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my videos take me between 9 to 12 hours of work, so that's my process. And so I'm not gonna down on any individual creators who I might not like, their style of presentation or their attitude or whatever, because I know what goes into it. And I know this isn't easy. You put yourself on the internet and you're opening yourself up to criticism from others and whatever. What I
Mm-hmm.
would say is that if all you're chasing is the high of getting the free stuff or feeling like an influencer or whatever, that isn't really enough. It's
Mm-mm.
not enough to sustain you. It's not enough to really make you happy. And what I will say is, and I've been guilty of buying something I didn't want just because, like, well, you know what? I think that my audience would really like to see this.
I've
That's
done that
especially
too.
the case. And I do it especially with head swap. Anything that has to do with head swaps, there's a lot of figures I would not have gotten, but I know that, hey, my audience is going to want to see the head swaps because that's what I do. My attitude is I'm not trying to sell you anything. My attitude is I'm here to help you make the most informed decision that you can as to whether or not this is good for your collection. That's why I like
Mm-hmm.
the verse. It's like, well, if you're going to buy one, what's the one you're going to get? Here's all the reasons to help you so that you're making the best decisions possible, especially in an economy where things are as expensive as they are. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to, my attitude is I want to help collectors make good collecting choices. And sometimes for me, that means buying stuff I might not want, but I'm trying to help you make good choices. And I see that as just kind of giving back to the community. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Um, so, um, but if it was just, I guess what it boils down to is just don't take anything for granted. Don't
Mm-hmm.
take your collection for granted. If you have a, if you're as lucky as you and I are to have a really wonderful audience of people that really, really love what we do and we have a great relationship with, don't take that for granted because not everybody who does what we do has that kind of a relationship. Some
Mm-hmm.
people have kind of very adversarial relationships with their audience, and you know, to be able to do what I love and to be able to make enough money on it to, get more figures and maybe a little bit extra. That's if I could go back in time and tell the kid version of myself that was making videos, with the family camcorder, hey, at some point you're going to do this, and there's going to be this thing called the internet, and people are going to really love it, and you're going to make money off of it, my brain would explode. I would not believe that. So yeah, don't take anything for granted, including how good we have it. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
dark part. Like right now, there was that period where it's like I started my channel in January of 2021. Marvel Legends were still $20. And you would
Mm-hmm.
have a build a piece. And like I remember the first wave of Marvel Legends I got for the channel was the Into the Spider-Verse wave, where you had, Miles Morales with two heads and four hands and a build-a-figure piece, and you had Peter B. Parker with two heads and hands and a soda cup and a build-a-figure piece, and it was all $20. And it's like, man, we had no idea how good we had it, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so just I think that one of the weird aspects that we don't think about with collecting is don't take anything for granted. And that's
Mm-hmm.
another reason why I might say don't necessarily collect everything, but collect what matters to you. Collect
Mm-hmm.
what matters to you. Because going back to what I said before, your collection is kind of it's a snapshot of who you are. And I would love, like right now, this room is a disaster, and I'm trying so hard to make like a nice version of this, of my, toy room. I would love to be able to have like everything set up so nice so that people could come over and I could open the door and say, this is my collection. Enter into my brain. This is what's important to me. This is what I love. This is what
Mm-hmm.
matters to me. This is a snapshot of not just what's important to me, but also who I am. And is who you want to be someone that spends money on things that you don't actually care about just because you think you're supposed to have them.
Mm-hmm.
That's not who I want. I
Yeah.
want to have things that reflect what I love and are important to me. And I can say, oh, this figure right here, like I have Damian Wayne on my desk here. I want to be able to say, oh, you see this particular Robin, and I could just tell them about why this character or this version, the Grant Morrison, Frank Whiteley version of Damian means so much to me, and to be able to have that enthusiasm, not that, yep, this is all the stuff I have. Like, I don't know about you. I like to go to thrift stores. I like to go to estate sales. I like to go, to places, and on the one hand, you find some treasures, but on the other hand, you also say, hey, this all belonged to somebody who's dead. And now people are rifling through it to figure out what they can then flip on eBay or on Facebook Marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
Get what
Yeah.
matters to you.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. I think the first year I started doing YouTube, I just kind of let the influence get to me. And I started buying figures that I knew would probably do well for my channel, but it wasn't really stuff I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of been last year, and of course this start of this year has been kind of going through everything, figure out what I really want to keep, what I don't want to keep again. What really
Mm-hmm.
means what means a lot to me, and that's kind of what I've been doing lately is just doing videos on stuff I want to collect, what I want people to know about when it comes to me.
Mhm.
And of course, my videos are usually they take about 2 to 3 hours at the most to get together. You know,
Mhm.
they seem simple, but it's a lot of chopping and editing to get all that
Right.
stuff together for each of my videos.
Yeah.
But because I watched a couple of other people I watched on YouTube, and especially you, Jason, I'm gonna kind of brag on you a little bit. And I admire the editing, the work
Mhm.
you guys put into when it comes to your content. I'm like, I'll never be able to get that good. So for me, I just like, what's the simplest approach I can go with? Put me behind it, put a camera in front of a toy, and just sit
Mhm.
back and talk about it. And not even stress about it. Just sit there, discuss the points, like look at packaging, look at the figure, how does it
Mhm.
move, what's the accessories, is it
Mhm.
worth the price, should you wait for a sale, something like that. And that's kind of
Mhm.
how I've been doing YouTube. And we got a friend here in the comments, Mr. Pack Photos. Good to see you, man. Says I've been downsizing a lot and been picking and choosing. Always been a fan of your work, man. Keep grinding. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the gist of it when it comes to collecting
Mhm.
Marvel Legends. I mean, we want to
Right. And
collect we want to collect them all, but at the same time, we know we don't need to.
mhm. And that's one. And I would say for myself, there are different. And I this is different for me because you know there are the things I get as a collector that I want, and then there are the, like, okay, this is good for the channel. And good for the channel doesn't always mean, oh, this is going to get a lot of views. Sometimes
Yeah.
good for the channel just means, hey, a great example for me is I really, really loved the Astonishing X-Men Beast from the
Mhm.
last wave of the mini comic wave. And there was a real part of me that before the Colossus and Kitty Pride 2-pack had been announced, I had actually been thinking about selling off the White Queen that was the
Mhm.
Astonishing X-Men White Queen because I don't like that figure that much. I was disappointed with the White Queen figure. But for me, it's kind of like when I say, okay, this is for the channel, instead of selling it, I'm holding on to it because I know that people are going to want to say, hey, when this comes out, I want to see how the whole team looks. I want to see how is Beast going to look with Emma and Cyclops? How is Kitty and Colossus going to look at the time? So, so for me, there is the stuff that I see as being shelf worthy, and then there's the stuff that's just in tubs or boxes that I know that, hey, when I need to do a side by side comparison or a head swap, it's there, for the people that are going to benefit from being able to see it, but I don't care about it. So
Mhm.
what I'm trying to do is say, do I really, really need this? And, if I don't, what do I want to put out there? When I'm picking out what's going to be actually on display, what is the most important to me?
Mhm.
And that's exciting. And again, I think that the big elephant in the room, we have 10 minutes left. So I think that, to quote myself, this leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. You
Mhm.
know, as things are so much more expensive, Marvel Legends are now $28. Um, a lot of the DC multiverse are $28 or more if you're talking about the deluxe theatricals or whatever. Even the wrestling figures, your basics
Mhm.
are like $11, and then you've got your $25 level, and then your $35 level, depending on what level of accessories you want. Um, so I feel like price is a big factor. You were talking about selling stuff and regretting things. My absolute biggest seller's remorse back when I was in college. Um, I needed money 1 month for rent, and so I sold all of my Toy Biz Marvel Legends that I had. I sold my entire Toy Biz Marvel Legends collection, and I got rent for the month, but I lost probably like 50, 70 figures. you know,
Mm.
and that one still hurts. So, but back then they were $10 at Walmart. You could
Mm.
buy a whole wave, and you could buy the variants if you wanted to, and it meant nothing because, and like that's the thing. If everything is so expensive, it's not as fun anymore. It's, you have to be pickier, you have to be choosier. And yeah, I
Mm.
can understand why a lot of collectors are throwing in the towel because it's really sucked all the joy out of it.
Yep. Especially when you can't find really what you're looking for in retail stores anymore, because Walmart's not carrying a whole lot of Marvel Legends anymore, nor DC really. They've kind of
No,
quit doing that. And Target,
no,
they carry some stuff, but they don't carry a whole lot of things anymore. It's like retailers are just stop carrying product, and so it seems our only option to get things is to go online. But you think not everybody wants to go online. Most people still want to go toy hunting, but like you said, it's not as enjoyable as it used to be when you can't really
no.
find what you're looking for on a toy shelf anymore.
Yeah, and to that, I would say when everything is so expensive, I don't entirely blame Walmart and Target for not wanting to carry stuff because
No,
it's like,
no.
you know, how much, we talk about how much, we're paying, but that means that the wholesale prices are going up. So it's
Mhm.
more expensive for them to buy the product. And it's like, if everything is so expensive, what is the margin of profit that they're making on these things now? I know for a fact that, the wholesale prices have gone up and that, Hasbro is taking a bigger piece of the pie than they used to be. So the stores aren't making as much per item as they were. So I feel like there's less and less of an incentive there. And there's more of an incentive for Hasbro or McFarlane to sell things through their own website because they can sell it for $28. And guess what? They're keeping even more of the profit because they don't have Target or Walmart as a middleman.
That's true.
So like I don't
That's
know, and obviously Toy Biz or not Toy Biz, Toy Fair is a whole other conversation to have. But with the exception of maybe NECA and some third party, or not third party, but smaller companies, I was really disappointed by a lot of just a lack of anything, with Toy Fair. Like Mattel, great presentation with Masters of the Universe. They really got that on lock. But beyond that, like, NECA had a lot of really great stuff, as NECA always does. But like DC Multiverse, the only new thing they showed off was Brandon Routh Superman. There was no new DC
yeah.
Multiverse on display, you
Mhm.
know. And everything that Hasbro showed off, they had already showed us at the live stream. So, with the exception of Professor Hulk and the Aaron Davis Spider-Man, there's nothing new for us to see. It's like, okay, you know. And I used to live for Toy Fair every year.
Mhm. It seems like really the big companies are trying to save all their heavy hitters for the big cons like San Diego Comic-Con or New York Con is what
Right.
they're saving stuff for really. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's the big those are the biggest cons of the year, and they always like, and Hasbro Mattel, no, they like to save the best stuff for those conventions because they knows when a lot of people be talking. But you're
Right.
right,
But
Toy Fair, I agree, was pretty weak. There wasn't a whole lot of new to show off for any of the companies for that matter. I mean, yeah, NECA again does show off great stuff. I mean, I like the look. I'm looking forward to their turtles that they revealed not too long ago, like the product page of I forget what turtles it was, but it's like a mix of their cartoon variants and Mirage comics.
yeah, I know what you're
Made
talking
by yeah, I'm looking forward to those. But the DC stuff, I mean, I might pick up one or two of those figures. I don't know about you, Jason. I mean, you might probably pick up one or two of, for your channel because your audience will want to see what the
Oh,
figures are.
The new Mattel
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, the Mattel
Yeah.
figures.
Oh yeah.
Because
I'm already prepared. Oh, I'm already getting things to prepare verses and things like that. I'm already getting ready for that.
yeah,
Because that's going to obviously be a very big discussion to have. But I kind of like what I'm seeing also.
oh,
So
For sure. For
Um,
sure.
but again, but I'm also looking at it from the perspective of these are the kids' figures. This isn't the collector stuff, and I know that. So I'm not like, oh no, they don't have ankle pivot or whatever. Like for the
Hmm.
cheap stuff, that's the basic kids line. I don't care. I get what they're doing. I would like to get them in hand and try to get a sense for okay, well, if this is what they're doing for kids, what can I kind of vision? Knowing Mattel's pattern. Again, going to the pattern of like wrestling. You've got your basic figures, you have your this level, you have your this level. If that's what they do with DC, where you're going to have like your basic figures, and then like your $25 figures are going to just be more articulated versions of that with maybe like four hands and a head, and then you've got your $35 ones with extra heads and hands and who knows what, then I think we're going to be in potentially good shape as long as they're making a wide enough variety of characters. But that's a whole other conversation for next time.
Yeah,
uh
we definitely need to have the talk about Mattel DC and
yeah,
McFarlane DC. I
but
definitely want to have a conversation with you on that topic for sure.
yeah, but the point that I wanted to make about Toy Fair, and you kind of hit it on the head. The companies right now, they are putting more effort into what? Live streams, San Diego Comic Con, New York Comic Con. But what are these events? These are just conventions.
Hmm.
Toy Fair is a trade show. Toy Fair is where they're supposed to be putting their best foot forward because that's the event where all the retailers come and fill their orders. But what a poor showing for Toy Fair tells me is that the companies no longer care about that. They don't care about the retail. They're chasing social media buzz because
Hmm.
what San Diego is good for is social media buzz. New York, social media buzz, a panel room where they can have a screen behind them and a PowerPoint slide of, oh, this is what's coming, and everybody cheers, and people like you and me, we make videos about it, and then there's chatter,
Hmm.
so that way when the pre-orders go up, they pre-order, everything sells out, and they don't care or need the stores anymore.
Hmm.
And that's why I don't like seeing so little at Toy Fair. To me, it really does show the shift in priorities from actually building relationships with retailers, cultivating that brick and mortar system versus just sort of social media buzz chasing. And I feel like that's what they're really mainly doing now.
Yep. Yep. I agree. I enjoy Toy Fair every year. I mean, I haven't
Mhm.
went in a long time, but they should be putting their best. I mean, it's the key word toy. That's when they should be revealing their best stuff. But again,
Right.
social. That's what today is. I heard a person make a comment. Has social media ruined our love for toy collecting? Because here we are, we're always on social media all the time, trying to keep up with
Mhm.
when is this product coming out, when is this releasing, and we're really
Right.
putting our focus into social media all the time because we're excited for something, but it's like we want to be the first ones to get the news coverage so we can pass it
Mhm.
on our social media or on our YouTube channels, and we can be
Right.
like, okay, here's the information I have on this.
Mhm.
And I get it, you have to stay. That's what the toy game has become like, especially when it comes to collecting. It's
Mhm.
become being ahead of the game, being the first one to get this info on this figure or this particular item out before everybody else
Right.
does.
Right. But like as a kid, it was, oh, I'm the first kid on the block to have this shiny new thing, and I can hold it up and everyone say, ooh, ah. Yeah,
Mhm.
now the drive is, I want to be the first kid on the block to have the content out,
Mhm.
talking about this thing. And that, has its own rewards, but it doesn't quite, it does ring a little bit hollow.
Yeah.
Um, I am a collector of action figures. I'm not a collector of clicks.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going to print out my algorithm and hang it all over my toy room and have people come in and say, "Look at my metrics, everyone." You know,
No, I wouldn't be doing that either.
right?
But
So,
yeah, I mean we got a few seconds left. I mean, is there anything else you want to mention about the topic we're discussing tonight, Jason, or do you think we've covered everything?
I mean, I feel like I've talked about pretty much everything I wanted to cover. What about you?
I think so. I mean, we've done discuss. We've kind of went off the walls here and there. We're bringing in DC and everything, but again, like Marvel Legends, DC's a part of the same thing. It's all toys at the end of the day,
Right.
so that's just part of it.
Right.
But if there's nothing else, we are already at that time, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate y'all stopping by, commenting. I know we didn't. I know we've had a lot of technical difficulties tonight. Hopefully, next show we will get that sorted out. Maybe I won't be gone and Jason won't be freezing on camera. But anyway, again, everybody, y'all have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Bye.